I'm Louisa, I'm 34 from Portsmouth, and I had my leg amputated when I was 20 because I had cancer.
I'm Peter, and my wife Kathy, and this is our lovely dog Peggy, who has benefited from an implant. Peggy was a rescue dog found in Dubai in the desert with her paw cut off at the age of about 4 months.
So we took her to our vet for the options, really, and there were 2 options, and that was to have her leg cut off, but right at the top, wasn't it? There wasn't a choice to keep even part of her leg.
No, it would be
or to see if Noel could help her.
Brought her into Fitzpatrick's, and she has had the latest generation of implant.
So 6 years ago you had yours done.
Yeah.
And what was your diagnosis?
I had osteosarcoma in my bone, but then it came back in the back of my leg, so that's when they decided to do the amputation.
Because it could kill you.
Yeah, so there was no choice really, and I'm
How old were you at that point?
20.
Were you one of the first few? Or?
I was the first lady, I believe. Being quite young, I was a bit naive to it all, really. I didn't sort of think about it too much, just went with what they advised. My doctor, Professor Briggs, was trialling it, the ITAP, because I wasn't getting on with my socket at all, my artificial leg, and just ended up not wearing it at all, and being on crutches all the time, and with a little one it was just such hard work. So he put me forward for being involved in the trial. He said to us, just keep asking me, every time you come up for your checkups, just keep asking me, because there will be a point where we can do it, which then finally it came. So yeah, but I think they've stopped doing them now because of the risk of infection and stuff. So
did you get any infection?
I'm on antibiotics permanently now. I have had the odd flare-up, but nothing major.
Yeah.
I know one guy that had to have it taken out because it got seriously infected. So I think that's why they've stopped doing it, to try and control the infections. And
a bit more than 10 years ago, when I put in the first one in a dog, only one human being in the UK had one at that point.
Right.
I put in the first one in a dog, and then I kept doing them in dogs for quite some time before your clinical trial came about.
Yeah.
The problem was with animal bone was it was quite narrow, the bone was quite narrow, so you can see that fracture there?
Yeah.
So as we were hammering in the implant, sometimes it would break. So we didn't like that, and we learnt a lot about how to impact them. And there were several problems with the original ITAP, which is why they stopped the study, which is deeply unfortunate because
it's ridiculous, isn't it?
There's tons to learn. So specifically the 3 things that we looked at was the dead space behind the flange that could build up fluid and how to get the muscle down underneath the flange. Secondly, the geometry of the flange, and thirdly, how the skin is attached to it. Because nowadays osseointegration, which is the bone physically growing onto the metal, that's well established. And it's established for hip replacements and lots of things. That's not the problem. The bone growing onto it isn't the problem. The problem is the skin growing onto it. And there's a lot of debate which has been fired up over the last decade about how best to do that. And Professor Gordon Blunt and Catherine Prendergast at University College London were the first people to look at the deer antler, where the antler came through and the skin attached to it. And that's the geometry of the initial dome was based on deer antler.
Yeah.
Since then, we've found out that can get infected, as you've experienced yourself, and also that's the main reason why currently they haven't been doing them in the United Kingdom since that initial trial.
Yeah. So I've basically got a bit of metal going straight into my bone here, which was the surgery. So there's an implant in there, and then my artificial leg just clicks straight on and clicks straight off. So I can pretty much do anything that anyone else can do, really. Since having it, I know loads of people have said to me, have you heard of the super vet? He's done it to animals. Suppose just thought that it wouldn't be possible that that's something you could do. But obviously since watching the programme, you realise that it is really, really similar.
I can't see why, if in animals it's done, I can't see why it can't be transferred to humans. To see how she moves and runs and is just so agile in a way that I'm sure at the moment a human just couldn't be. And sometimes I think, oh my gosh, a dog here has got such a better quality of life than I'm sure a lot of humans are. And I wish that medicine would take this on board and say that, you know, I just can't see why not.
If it could be that more people could have it done, then that is totally the way forward, because there's no need to be on crutches or horrible artificial legs that are uncomfortable, because I literally have no pain. It's amazing. It just feels like part of me.
In the United Kingdom, between 4,500 and 5,500 dogs a year lose their lives. And in the United States, about 60,000 dogs every year are killed to give humans drugs and implants. But we don't like to think about that,
No.
even though that's the harsh truth of it, because we need safe drugs and implants. So what's fascinating about the journey of amputation prosthesis is how much we have to learn from each other, but also how much that's not happening.
No.
When you looked at what I'd done on the telly, did the penny suddenly drop? Well, how come we're not?
Yeah, it just makes sense. Why don't you just do it?
Well, there's a lot of human families out there with dogs as members of those families that genuinely want to.
Yeah.
And I think it's an undeniable truth that society would prefer to have Peggy's technology move forward at the same time as yours without killing the animals.
Yeah.
Because you don't need to.
No.
So all of the failures that we had in animals with the implant you have, and all of the failures with the implant you have in humans, of which there have been several, we should learn from that together.
Yeah.
So if we look at Peggy's skin interface, it's pretty good.
It's amazing.
And she's got nose, and she has a good attachment of her skin to the metal, and she is running around on it like it was her normal leg.
Yeah.
What we've learned through that process is the development of a new model. And this is what we would like to bring to the table for humans. And I've offered to give this implant to the human field openly without the desire for financial gain, and to say to them, work with us. Let's not kill the animals. Let's work with the animals that really need the technology, and let's learn together.
Yeah.
So going forward, it's ludicrous not to see the similarities between you and this
completely.
dog.
And how well she's walking around, and you wouldn't know, would you? It's amazing. Like, she's got a quality of life, hasn't she? You need to learn from her. She's amazing.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And my biggest dream and goal in the One Medicine arena is that we provide life for an animal rather than death.
Yeah.
And if she goes on to live another 10 to 12 years, we then have a 12-year model for human disease, which would be impossible to pay for if she was an experiment.